Hey guys, can you hear me okay? Hey Sling and Lead, how are you? Thanks, John. Hey Tech Death, glad you're here. Sorry my intros didn't work. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I may have to re-download it into StreamYard. Something's not working. I don't know. It didn't work last time either. So I do apologize for that. I'm really glad to see you guys. Hey August, thanks for joining tonight. Hey Jane's from the country. So glad to have you. Hey AJ, thank you so much for showing up tonight. I'm so glad to see all of you. I just wanted to let everyone know. I know I've been kind of quiet the last few days, and there was so much information that came out and dropped, and there was a lot of drama around it as well. Hi, August. And on Tuesday, I had a mishap here at home. Outside my house, I fell, and it was a pretty bad fall. And I didn't break anything, but I'm really battered and bruised. And so I've just kind of been laying low and haven't really been able to do a whole lot. I did a lot of reading and catching up. I read the interview, the law enforcement transcript interview. So I got caught up on that and just did some reading as I've been resting. And I decided that I needed to try and at least have a live with you guys so that we could talk about it. AJ, I feel so much better today, but I'm still really, really sore. At least I'm able to sit up. I wasn't able to sit up much yesterday. I pretty much laid all day. So getting better each day. So I just wanted to let everybody know why I was kind of gone when all this was happening, because normally I wouldn't have been. And I know there's just been a lot put out there everywhere. Tonight I thought what we would talk about, I do want to talk about the law enforcement interview. I want to touch on a couple of other topics first. I just want to, I know it seems like we're beating a dead horse, but it just needs to keep being said because Kelsey keeps tweeting about it. She keeps posting about it. And I just feel that it's necessary to, thanks, John, to go over this again. We need to be very careful and make sure that we're not re-victimizing these families. So no matter what we're discussing or how we're talking about things, whatever, we always need to be thinking about them first. And I just want everybody to really, really pay attention to that. Kelsey made a really long post about it and how people need to realize that families are living this every single day, and some of the hateful and mean things that people say about them. I hope now that we have some of this information from law enforcement that the murder sheet has provided for us, I hope that those people will reevaluate. Hey, Faye, good to see you. I'm glad you made it. I hope those people will reevaluate their reasons for saying and doing the things that they do, because I think with all the new information, law enforcement's not looking at the family members. I think it's extremely important that we put that out there. And I just can't believe that people keep looking away from what law enforcement's telling us. It's kind of weird, actually. Hey, Tech Death, you keep on practicing while you listen. We love your music, so you just go right on ahead and practice. So, you know, it's just one of those things that we just have to keep talking about. I see it in other chats, in other channels, where it's allowed. People are just allowed to say those things, and I'm just against it. And I think you guys all know that. So I just want to keep it in the forefront of our minds. So let's just kind of delve into this whole interview with Kegan from law enforcement that happened back on August 19th of 2020, the day he was arrested. I want to know, first of all, before we do, how many that are here watching or in the chat, will you just put a 1 if you've had a chance to look at this document and read it at all? I'd like to know how many have. Hey, Graz, good to see you. So glad you're here. Hey, Alicia. Mine does too, hun. Alicia says, she reminds us that her heart breaks for the families. It's bad enough their girls are gone and brutally murdered, but having to relive it every day for over 5 years and still not knowing who did it. Yeah, it's just got to be unbelievably painful. I just can't even imagine. So I'm seeing a lot of 1s of people who've had a chance to read over the document. So I don't feel like discussing it, will be a bad thing, because people have already been out there and looking at it. And there's, like I said, there's just so much to absorb, so many things that we could talk about. Hey, Amy Celeste, good to have you here. Colette Henson, good to see you as well. Redhead 9, thanks for joining us tonight. We certainly appreciate you being here. So one of the things that I noticed right off the bat when I was going over this document, there's just so much, but I think that law enforcement is not doing anything that they have not thought out a game plan for. And I think every single move they make with Kegan is almost kind of like not a game of chess, but it's a strategic move towards their end goal of what their end goal is. And hey, Redhead, I'm so glad to have you for the first time. So I think they are continuing to try to pressure Kegan and try to get him to open up about what he knows, because everything in that law enforcement document, the law enforcement interview part about Delphi, points to they know a lot of information about him, about where he was, what his phone was doing, who his phone was speaking to, and all of those things. They even go on to say to him that they know that there were 2 conversations happening in that home simultaneously from 2 separate devices. And I found that extremely compelling. It's also extremely damning in a way. And we'll get into it, but I really feel that Kegan was deflecting. He had a really spotty memory through all of this. Some things he remembered really well, other things he didn't remember at all. And I think that that's also telling about what's going on here with him. As far as DNA goes, I'm beginning to think that that is very, very possible that they don't have DNA, but I'm not sure still about that. But if they had usable DNA, just follow me here for a second. If they had usable DNA that they found at the crime scene, and Kegan provides a DNA sample, it would be easy to eliminate him as a potential suspect based on the fact that they have enough markers, we've been told, to do that with other people that they've looked at. So they would be able to potentially say, okay, we know he's not guilty or whatever, or he's not bridge guy. Let's put it that way. Thank you, Jane. My mods, I have some of the best mods ever. I will say that for sure. They're super nice, and they really help keep my channel going for me, and I appreciate each and every one of them, and I'm thankful that you brought that up. So that's a nice shout out to them. Now, if Tony Kline is considered to be a viable suspect in this, I've thought about Kegan's DNA would essentially contain much of the same genetic material as Tony's. So if Kegan's sample didn't match, they would be able to rule Tony out as well. Which makes me think that they may not have usable DNA. So I'm just confused about that. And all of that DNA question came into play because I really, really feel that they're focusing on Tony Kline. So, the social media storage, all of the searches that was being done on these devices, and especially while they were in Vegas, supposedly on a fun trip or a fun vacation. I didn't see them. I didn't see Kegan having a lot of fun. He was searching for things like, how long does DNA stay on a body? How long does servers hold information? He was looking at all different kinds of weird things for, in my opinion, why would he be doing that while he's supposed to be on vacation having fun? He was searching for news stories on Delphi. And he was searching for anything he could find about the murders of the girls. I just felt like all those searches really were damning as far as why they would be doing it. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Those are some really interesting things that were going on. And just because Kegan deleted some of those social media data files didn't mean that Libby deleted hers. We don't know what they've been able to garner off of Libby's phone. And we know that they've gotten some because they were aware somehow that he was speaking with Libby not only the day that she disappeared and was murdered, but also he was sending her Snapchat messages after she died. So was he doing that as a cover because of, what was going on, and he, all of that kind of stuff? I mean, those are things that kind of play out in my mind, and I'm sure you guys are asking yourselves those same kind of questions. Sure, Faye, what's your DNA question? Faye, did you hear me? What's your DNA question? AJ, I agree with you. I will check into that and see if I can find information, and see if I can even find somebody that might be willing to come on and talk to us about it. Because that would be a really a great thing, I think, to have somebody with DNA expertise be able to speak to us more about the DNA. Because obviously it's, it's important. We don't know about Libby's phone. We don't know what she may or may not have deleted. We don't know. To me, it's like everything we've been told so far. They're relying on the Kegan Kline side of the social media. They've not told us anything that they've garnered or gained or gleaned from the people he was speaking to. Trace DNA is it's not hairs or fibers, I don't believe, Graz. I think what trace DNA is, it's where it's a smear or a smudge or a small amount of DNA. Hairs and fibers are actual pieces of evidence. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's considered a trace. But we'll figure it out. I will try and get some information on that, and maybe we'll do a whole show on it or something, and see where that leads us, because I think it would help us a lot if we knew. So AJ just said touch DNA is defined as the body fluids or epithelial cells left behind on an object when it is handled by a suspect. So that's what touch DNA is. So if you, whatever you touch, if you happen to sneeze, if you drink out of a cup or a straw or anything like that, you're leaving behind bodily fluids and you're leaving behind your epithelial cells, your skin cells. So that's how that works. So anyway, I was talking about the social media angle with Libby's phone and anybody else. We know from the law enforcement interrogation that they have evidence of where Kegan was talking with one of Libby's friends, and he was talking to them as Anthony Schatz. And the investigator makes it sound clearly that Libby was completely groomed by who was ever talking behind that profile, because she had basically, as he put it, fallen in love with Anthony Schatz. And so that's what they told him. And to me, there has to be more social media than what they've shown of conversations that they have, which I'm sure that they must have them. But we haven't seen them in these documents. We're not aware of all of the people that they've been able to find that communicated with Anthony Schatz's profile. Thanks, AJ. I'll look that up in just a little bit. I'll look at that. Thank you so much for finding it. You're amazing, as always. So these people, these girls that were communicating with him, that were Libby's friends, to me are quite important. Very funny, Faye, very funny. Because they had conversations, and they know that they were talking to someone who was trying to set up Libby for a meeting, because Libby talked about it, that she was going to meet Anthony Schatz. So one of the friends, when Libby went missing, she contacted the Anthony Schatz profile and said, "Hey, have you heard about Liberty?" And his response was no. I mean, his response wasn't no, what do you mean, or what are you talking about? His response was, OMG, what happened? Which I think is really an odd way of someone to answer a question like that. Why was it so exasperatingly, oh my God? I just think that's telling. And in my opinion. But anyway, he immediately says, well, I was supposed to meet her, but she never showed up. And I'm like, wow. You know why he said that, in my opinion? I mean, he was setting himself up to try to have an alibi. I mean, if this ever got put back on him, and anybody ever put the fact that, Anthony Schatz is the guy, or the profile, and it's Kegan, he didn't want to seem like he had met her or had gone to meet her. So he was trying to make it sound like, well, yeah, I was going to meet her, but she never showed. So I think that that's kind of interesting for sure. Something that we need to keep in the backs of our minds. I also felt like the tone of the sorry, StreamYard's not being cooperative with me right now. The tone of the questions, I know it's hard to say, hey, why, good to see you. You can't really tell tone because it's a written document, but to me, you can kind of get some of that. I felt like the questioning suggests frustration on the officers, the investigators that were doing the interviewing of him. I was kind of surprised at how they approached the interview with him. I think they were able to get information from him, but one of the things that I questioned, in my mind, was why would they tell him that they didn't think he committed the murders? Why would they give that up and not use that as leverage to get more information? Wouldn't you think that if they had him in a room, they would be trying to pin it on him, like say, Kegan, this is all pointing to you. This is, we've got this, you're doing this. We know this is pointing to you. And we're here to tell you we have that evidence. It's all pointing to you. And we probably can get a grand jury to say, this guy is guilty. Remember, they can take this case to the grand jury at any time to get indictments. They don't have to go through presenting it and the old-fashioned way, so to speak, where they get all the evidence and then take it to the prosecutor. They could actually go to a grand jury at any point in time, present every single thing they have, and get a grand jury to indict whoever for murder or for obstruction of justice. I mean, there's all kinds of things that they could charge him with, but I just thought that was interesting that they gave that up in that interview. Now, I'm not law enforcement by any sense of the word. I'm not trying to pretend to be or know better than them. It's just something that I found very interesting. Hey, Grismatically, how are you? It's so good to see you this evening. Hey, Enoch. It's good to see you. Glad that you joined us. So I think they are seriously working on trying to get Kegan to flip on someone. I think it's his father, but what is crazy to me, he ran all over this interview, bringing up the names of friends and throwing them under the bus. And I'm just like, how does that work? How do you follow that trail that he's trying to create with them? The whole pretending that he doesn't remember. I don't remember, but yet he can remember other things like that. And that's one of the things that the interview, the detectives, the interviewers were trying to point out to him. Hey, buddy, we know that you're not on the up and up here with us. You are telling us one thing here and contradicting yourself from the other side. And his contradictions in this interview with law enforcement, just this one, was really, really apparent when you go over that document. I mean, it's just so apparent. One thing I do think about the case is that they have a ton of circumstantial evidence, which again brings me back to a grand jury. Now, I've sat on a grand jury, so I know how they work. I don't know how they work in Indiana, but I've sat on one in Illinois. And the defense gets nothing at a grand jury. It's all the prosecution. They bring in the investigators, the police officers. They can bring in any witnesses that they have for the prosecution and present it to the grand jury. And then you sit and you listen to all this evidence, and then you are sent back to deliberate on what you think, if they have enough to bring the case to trial or not, and to get that indictment. So it's really a one-sided kind of thing. Now, I will say the majority of the cases I heard, because I sat on the grand jury for 4 months, the majority of the cases that we heard, we did indict. I will tell you that. So it is kind of a one-sided scenario. At least the ones I was involved in were. But yeah, I just wonder what the goal is here. But yeah, I just don't understand why they would tell him that they don't believe he was guilty of the murder. That just really bothers me, because to me, that just takes away their upper hand with him. They would have a lot more leverage if they could make him fearful that that's what they were going to try and charge him with. So with that being said, I definitely believe that Kegan Kline knows who did this crime. There is no doubt in my mind that this man knows who killed Abby and Libby. I believe he's lying. I believe that he is withholding information. And I know there's so many dots here for law enforcement to connect. And I get that they told us a long time ago that this was a complicated case. And now we can see why it's so complicated. I mean, my God, it's the largest CSAM investigation in Indiana history. Are you kidding me? That comes out of Libby and Abby's murders. It's mind-boggling, you know. Kegan keeps pushing back his trial. There is a reason he's doing that. You know, if he is, they tell him more than once during their interview about, you know, you're looking at least 45 years, at least 45 years for all of the charges that you have against you. And, you know, that's a long time for somebody who's 27 years old. And he already knows that he's going to go away. But why he would want to take the fall for a murder or murders that he didn't commit, because that's what it looks like is happening. It looks like everything points to him, yet they know that it's not him. And so it makes me wonder of why that is. When you have two phones in the same household, having conversations at the same time, talking to this person, it would make me think that the other person living in the house was involved. And I'm sure that's what they think. I'm absolutely positive. Libby was being talked to from Vegas. Somebody was talking to Libby from Vegas. They make that very clear in the interview. So, and it was interesting to say, because she was already gone. And I just think that that's kind of odd, especially since he already admitted that he knew she was gone. He was searching about things from the internet about the Delphi murders and anything he could find. So why would you also be sending Snapchat messages to her to try to talk to her? He's just completely and absolutely not telling the truth. I think sadly, in a lot of ways, I feel I'm not as confident as I was maybe a few months ago. Lately I've been feeling a little bit like maybe they won't solve this case. And what I mean by that is I think they have enough now that they know who it is, but they don't have enough to take it to court and get a reason a, a decision beyond a reasonable doubt. And we all know they only get the one chance to do it, and that's why we haven't seen an arrest. I think they've been onto these guys from day one. I think that they may have gotten sidetracked in year one due to something else, which I'm not able to really put my finger on yet. But I do think it's very possible that they were intentionally sent down a different road somehow. And then in 2019, after Georgia got involved and went over everything, they were coming back to, hey, you guys, you were onto something in those very first few days after the murder with all this social media stuff, with this profile and her talking to this guy. You've got all of this CSAM. There's something here. I think that they have, I like to believe that there's an arrest coming soon. I don't want to give up hope. Part of me thinks that there will be an arrest soon, and another part of me is like, I'm not sure. I think Kegan knows. I definitely think Kegan knows. And he is not telling them what he knows. I think that it is damning to think that you have two people in the same house, like I said, that are communicating with her, and they know that. And at the same time, now he could sit there and say he didn't know that was happening, but I just don't buy it. I just don't. I also think that if this is the largest CSAM ring in Indiana's history, there could be a lot more players involved than we are aware of. We do have to look at the fact that he was sharing information through a Dropbox. But even that, if you notice in this portion of the law enforcement interrogation, when they're talking about Delphi, they don't talk about the Dropbox. They don't talk about the Dropbox. And so it just leads me back to they know what they're looking. They know what they're looking at. Law enforcement does. So I thought about it, and I was kind of like, well, what is it that's keeping Kegan from cracking? Because, you know, one of the things, hey, Maria, I'm so glad you were able to join, hon. Good to see you. Everybody say hello to True Crime Maria. She's my bestie. She has an amazing channel. If you have not subscribed to her or have not seen her videos, she has some amazing videos on the Klines. Please go subscribe to her and watch her videos. You will not be sorry. I think after I read the transcript, I finally finished it this afternoon, but after I finally did, one of the things that stuck out to me, he just won't speak about what he's been doing on his devices. He willfully forgets again and again, you know, but like I said earlier, he has this perfect memory when it suits him. But he really betrays that because he's blocking out certain facts and that he's aware of, which results in him, you know, literally painting himself into a corner on many issues. You know, did you guys remember when the insistence that detectives didn't tell him that they had told his father about the CSAM on his devices back in 2017? They have that on video, that they told Kegan this, and he got really, really upset. That's just not something you forget, in my opinion, especially when you remember other specific aspects of your interrogation. And he doesn't ever offer an explanation for why that is. And if I was doing something like that and I found out that they had told my father, do you think I'd forget that? Come on. Let's be real. So, again, we're looking at this really large porn ring that they're talking about, sharing the CSAM in the state of Indiana. And they've confronted him with facts in this case that ties him to the murder. They did that during his polygraph in 2017, which they informed him he failed, which he goes on to tell them, it doesn't matter. You can't use that against me in court. Then he tries to say, well, I, suffer from anxiety, and that's why I can't pass a polygraph. And he has seizures. He has no driver's license. He does not drive. So my question is, where was he on February 13th, 2017? Because he says he was home all day, and they told him that is not true. We know that is not true. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And then they bring up, well, we know that you went to so-and-so's house at so-and-so that day. What'd you go there for? Well, I went there to buy weed. Excuse me? Who took him there? How'd he get there? Because he was at his house with his dad, right? We're all on the same page, right? So somebody has to drive Kegan around to get to these places or to do these things, because he says he doesn't have a car. His dad has cars, unless he's driving around without a license, which I doubt, because if he suffers from seizures, it's super dangerous to go driving. And I doubt very seriously that he would be doing that. But that means to me that it's not going to be Kegan alone Kegan going to the Monon High Bridge. We just have to say that. He's not driving. How would he have gotten there unless he was going to arrange for someone to take him, or he was going with someone? Those things stick out to me. And, they confronted him, like I said, in 2017, and they really didn't get anywhere because we didn't see an arrest. They have the GPS linking where his phones were and his movements were that day, and they know that they are not in sync with what he's told them. He was very not very, how do I want to put it? He was not very intricate in his defining of his movements on the 13th of February. And, if somebody was asking me, let's put it this way, if I was in an interrogation for murder or for whatever, and somebody was questioning me and saying, okay, please tell us your whereabouts on such and such a day, I'm going to use timestamps, and I'm going to say, well, I woke up at 7 a.m. I had breakfast at 8. I showered. I got dressed. I sat and read the paper, or looked at the news on the television, or, made some phone calls, paid some bills. Around 11:30, the mail came. I went through the mail. At 1 o'clock, I had an appointment with my hairdresser. I went, you're going to give them a timeline of what you did. You're not going to sit there and say, well, Dad had Mondays off and, he usually slept in the morning and then we'd get up and have lunch or go have lunch. And that day we went to Grandma and Grandpa's around 6 or something to that effect. And then came for dinner and then came home to watch a WWE event that never happened. So they caught him really, really early in lying about that day and being very vague on what transpired and where he was and where his dad was. So, and when they brought that up to him, he got very defensive and was like, well, I don't remember doing that. And I don't remember saying that. And I don't remember being there. And I don't remember. I mean, incredibly crazy. I think there is a lot of innuendos that are placed in law enforcement's texts of some of the things that were said. I know I saw somebody mention earlier in the chat, I think about the shack and the reference because it's about a father and son and abuse. And I think that that's important that people look at that because I think there might be even a little bit more that was aimed that direction now that we know what we know. Faye, I agree with you. The majority of the reason that Kegan can't remember what he said back in 2017 is because what he said were lies. He also can't remember from 1 minute to the next, though, because he was also being extremely not so much as I would say, well, I guess you could say he was being caught in lies, but he was very contradictory. So that's what I think. Hey, Ann Royal, good to see you. I think one of the things that gets to me about this case is that with Kegan, the fact is most of us or most suspects would crack, under the weight of all of this evidence against them. I mean, 3 years in, 5, or 6 devices of CSAM, Kegan's admissions that he created, the Anthony Schatz account, the Emily Ann accounts. I will tell you this. I firmly believe that his dad, his father, is the one who was talking as Emily Ann. I do not believe those conversations were Kegan. If you go back and look at them and all the daddy references and all of that, that was his dad. That was not Kegan. And that's another thing that the investigators brought up when they talk about 2 people in the house talking on 2 different devices to the same person, and they were linguistically different. They were not speaking as the same person. And you can tell that. People don't realize that, but you can tell a lot. I mean, I learned this big time on Reddit for being on Reddit as long as I have. You can tell when you've got alternate accounts coming in trying to pretend that there's somebody else because you can tell by their writing style who it is. We all have one. We all have a writing style. We all have a dialect that we use when we talk. And it's unknown to us, really. It's not something that we're truly aware of. So it's really hard to fix or to correct or hide or imitate. Yes, Brian. Thank you. Brian said, the way that you write is as unique to you as your fingerprint. And that is so, so true. And they've caught people, doing crimes because of this very very thing. So you just have to, I guess you just have to really look at that and think about those things. So we're talking about the fact that he's got all of these CSAM charges, against him. And he's told them he created the Anthony Schatz account and the Emily Ann accounts, but he still won't cop to the more serious CSAM accusations, nor will he cop to chatting with Libby. He keeps saying, I don't remember her. I don't remember. Wait. Yeah, I did speak to her. She was annoying, so I blocked her. No, you didn't. You were still talking to her after she died. So what is it, Kegan? You can't have it both ways, and that's just how it is. And he won't point the finger truly at anyone else, although he does try to throw one or two of his friends under the bus, and say that they perhaps took his phone. And I loved how the investigators handled that. Your friends took your phone for what? Hours, days, months? Some of these conversations were ongoing conversations. They weren't just a one and done. They were long conversations. And this is what happens when criminals try to outsmart detectives. And they think they're smarter than the people in the room. And after they're in there for a long time, they start getting tired and whatever. And the stuff that they're saying just doesn't make sense. And that's what they kept telling him. What you're saying to us and what you're describing doesn't make sense. You do realize we have all of this evidence right here in front of us. We're looking at it. I think that to me is incredible. So what does it tell us about that fact about Kegan, that he won't cop to those other things and admit to them? Well, he still thinks that maybe he has something to lose by revealing more information. I don't know what that could be really, but if he was involved in these murders in any way, before, during, or after the fact, he's in big trouble. He's gonna probably go away for a long time. He would never see the light of day again. Maybe he's trying to protect someone else, and he's willing to go down for that person and doesn't want any benefit or exchange for anything, for trying to explain any other individual's involvement. I mean, I can't personally imagine taking the fall for a double murder for anyone, no matter who they were in my life, no matter what. I cannot imagine doing that. Now, with that being said, there are people out there who have done that. There are people out there who have taken the fall for other people or have falsely confessed and gone to jail. We know that. So, it also could be that Kegan is more scared of another outcome than he is of 40 years in jail for CSAM. I know that I'm going to say this because if we're going to look at this case and we're going to look at it objectively, we have to look at all angles of the case and all possibles when we're talking about this. So we still have to throw out there that there's another scenario happening here. And that could be that Kegan doesn't know anything about what happened in Delphi that day. I don't think that's plausible. Because when you read that transcript, No. I mean, no. You create a fake account, you admit to it. You message Liberty German, you start having conversations with her. You start talking about wanting to meet her. You groom her basically to where she, as investigators said, was in love with the profile of Anthony Schatz. And you talk about meeting up with her and meeting her. And then you message her before and on the day of her murder. Sorry guys, hold on. I just need to get this out of here. User in timeout. Thanks guys for taking care of that. Just so you know, we don't bash other creators in my channel. I just want everyone to know that. So, he told another young female that he was speaking with, that was Libby's friend, that he had plans to meet Liberty, but she didn't show up. And he was actively engaged in solicitation and distribution of CSAM during that time. He scrubs his Snapchat, which is where he was speaking with Libby. And she was using that moments before her murder. We know she was using Snapchat because she uploaded the photos of Abby to Snapchat. And he scrubbed him not once, but twice. And not just twice, but 3 times. And these accounts played a huge role in these murders. And even if Kegan is not directly responsible for the murder of Abby and Libby, he has the information of who had accessed the accounts, how they did it. He knows that, and he's not giving that up. And we have to admit that no matter how sick and degenerate he is of a human being in many ways, I think he's a lot more intelligent than people give him credit for. He just was really successful, or he has been, of law enforcement being able to crack him. He twists their facts on them. He steers the conversations off topic. I mean, I couldn't believe how some of that was so hard to follow. He goes right into the weeds several times and causes the law enforcement to question him, and they lose momentum. Because a lot of this, like I said, is a law enforcement, when they do interrogation videos, or interrogations, not videos, but interrogation. I've gleaned this from watching videos of it. They do it usually in pairs. It's usually in tandem. They have a game plan. They know what they're going into. They know what they're going to do. And they know how they're going to ask the questions, what questions they're going to ask, how hard they're going to press. You usually have one officer press a little harder than the other one. The other one seems to more likely try to befriend the suspect in a way to make him think he's got somebody in his corner. And those kinds of things are kind of what happen. He does twist them. Like I said, he twists them. He was able to do that with these 2 investigators. But, he was using multiple devices to create multiple people through, he was 20 years old, and he convinced hundreds, even in his own words, hundreds of girls to send him naked photos of themselves, videos of themselves, or actually speak to him on the internet. To me, it's disgusting, but it actually takes a smarter person than we think to do all that and keep it all together and straight and know who you've talked to and whatever. So, I just feel at this point that right now, what it looks like is Kegan has no reason to crack. He feels that if he continues to blockade them and, that he was going to actually probably, they were just going to stop talking to him about Delphi. I firmly believe that in his mind, he thinks that if he keeps doing what he's doing, they're eventually one of these days just going to say, he's not responsible for this. Let's go somewhere else. And I think that he feels that what he's witnessed by law enforcement, they don't have enough. I think he firmly believes that they don't have enough or he would have been charged. So that's why I think they're also looking at his father. And I think that he knows this, although I do think in his own admission, he believes his father's capable of this act. So I don't know. It could be that they don't truly have DNA. I go back and forth on that. I just really do. Because if they had DNA that they can rule out people, which we've been told they were able to do, they were able to rule people out, then they could have ruled them out already. And that's one of the things that bugs me, because they haven't ruled them out. It's quite apparent they have not ruled them out. So, and by the enormous amount of circumstantial evidence that they have, they could have gone to a grand jury and gotten an indictment. So those kinds of things lead you to wonder what else is going on out here. He knows information. I think he knows about distribution, maybe, and access to his accounts. But he's not going to give that up, and he's not going to share it. And I feel that's because this ring is probably extremely huge, and there's probably a lot of very important people that could come out of this as being involved. What if the other aspect could be that he knows that he shared information with someone, even in passing, just by saying, wow, she's going to the Monon High Bridge today, or something to that effect. And the wrong person is the person who got it, and that's the person who committed the murders. Why wouldn't he own up to that? Why wouldn't he say, yeah, I did accidentally share where they were going to be that day, or where she was going to be that day, or whatever it was. He won't even come up with that. I think he's afraid that if he snitches, he's looking at a lifetime in prison. And I think that if he is labeled a snitch, where he's going, it's bad enough with all the CSAM stuff. But if they find out that he's also a snitch, that's like the lowest of the low on the prison rolls. It would be really, really bad for him in jail. So maybe it's a close friend. Maybe it's a close friend. I know that he's got a very good handle on digital, being able to work around in the digital world. We know he knows a lot. And so I think we have to just look at all of that. That's just my opinion on that. Like I said, I just think that we've got so much information to go over in this. I mean, we're going to be able to talk about this for a long time. But it's just, I guess the question to me is, are we closer or are we still far away? I mean, I think we're closer. But I worry that they do know who he is. And they may very well be who they've implied to Kegan it is, but they cannot put him at the crime scene. And you have to have evidence of that. You can't just go into court and say, well, we know all this happened. We know they were doing this and speaking to her here. We know they spoke to her the last day she was alive. We know that they tried to speak to her after she was gone. We've got all of this evidence, but they can't put the crime of murder in their hands. They cannot place them in those woods with the girls. And that is where we are, I think, in this case. And I think that's something that they need, whether it's a confession or whether it's someone else that was involved or there to come forward and say, this is what I know. This is what I know. This is what happened. This is what I know. And I agree, AJ, his life may have already been threatened in prison. Especially if any of these people are higher ups, they will find a way to get you. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that there's a circle here, and we're not just looking, I don't think we're looking at one or two people. Maria and I have talked about this at length, but one of the things that I keep saying or keep going back to is, what if Libby knew or had figured out that the Anthony shots was not real? What if she had? And what if she was going to go to law enforcement? And to me, that right there, just that question would be motive for murder. Especially if it was going to bring down this huge CSAM ring that is all about, I'm sure, money, if nothing else. Oh, that's nice and lovely. I hope one of my mods can help get rid of that. Who the heck is spamming me? Oh, Lord. Yeah, it's nice. It's okay. I don't know if I was able to block them. I tried. But anyway, I do think that the investigation is heading somewhere. I definitely do. They took all the physical descriptors off of the, thank you, AJ. They took all the physical descriptors off the flyer for this case, which I don't know of a case they've ever done that with, but I'm just like, there are a lot of trolls out there, you guys. There's a lot of people out there that just want to create chaos. So, anyway, the descriptors off of the wanted posters, those to me that's telling as well. I think it says that maybe we were wrong in releasing that information and going down that path because people started honing in only on those descriptors. And I can see it. I've seen it. I mean, he's not tall enough. It can't be him. He's not, he doesn't have the right build. He can't, I mean, all of that. And maybe they just realized that we shouldn't have done that in the beginning. I don't know. Hey, Joe, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. Hey, guys, say hello to Tech Desk wife, Jody. She's Joe. She just joined our chat. I love your little babies. I love them. They are so adorable. You guys, they raise guinea pigs. They've got like 19 of them. So nice to see you here. So where do you guys think the investigation stands? Do you think we're going to be sitting here next year wondering the same thing? Or do you think we'll be here next year wondering whatever happened with the Kegan Kline scenario? Or do you think we're going to look back and say, or do you think it's going to be solved and we're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, now I know exactly why everything happened the way it happened? What do you guys feel? Because I know we all have different opinions of what's going on. Yeah, I think you're right, Brian. I think that people were just getting way too narrow focused on a person, matching a picture or matching not a picture, but matching a sketch. And I am one of the people that really feel the sketches hurt this case. I don't feel the sketches have helped this case in any way, shape, or form. And it's sad because I know the sketch artists, when they drew these sketches, they were hoping to help the case. It wasn't some Parabon Nano Labs doing the first sketch of the young bridge guy. This was a sketch artist that actually sat down and drew that sketch. And there's an actual video of him talking about it. So anyway, it's just there. Like I said, the case has so many layers. There's just so much to talk about, and to try to dissect. And new people coming in, I just don't even know how to tell them where to start. It's so hard to know. But the fact that one of the things also that I wanted to pull out of the interview that I thought was interesting is that Libby went to a sleepover at some friend's house, and that during that sleepover they were talking to Anthony Schott's profile. And one of the things about my thoughts and my theory kind of what if Libby was going to go to law enforcement, what if she realized that Anthony Schatz was not who he said he was, or if she figured it out somehow, because then she was murdered. Obviously, we know that. But on the 20th of February, one of those friends came home from school, and there was a person with a mask in her window, in her bedroom window. And I've wondered if that person was a threat to her, threatening her. See what can happen to you if you say anything, kind of thing. Maybe I'm overthinking that, and maybe that's going way off the path, but those are some things that have kind of run around in my head. I mean, there's just so many scenarios that it could be. I love that, Faye. You're foaming at the mouth, are you now? Yeah, Enoch, there's a lot of confirmation bias around this case. It's extremely apparent. We all have confirmation bias. We've all talked about it. I made a couple videos about it. We've talked about it in my lives. And it's okay as long as you know you have it. And then when you go into and analyze the information that you're looking at, whatever it may be, you try to push that bias aside and look at it with an open mind. And it is really hard to do sometimes for us as human beings. Oh no, I did not know that. I do know that there is a book that Libby was reading, Promise Not to Tell. And this is the book that she was reading at the time of her death. And I was just going to read you the jacket of this. Let's see. So this is the back jacket of the book that Libby was reading when she died. And Becky said that this book was not for school. It was just something that she was reading. A woman's past and present collide with the unexpected results in this hauntingly beautiful debut novel set in rural Vermont. 41-year-old school nurse Kate Cipher has returned home to rural Vermont to care for her mother, who's afflicted with Alzheimer's. On the night she arrives, a young girl is murdered, a horrific crime that eerily mirrors another from Kate's childhood. 3 decades earlier, her dirt poor friend Dell, shunned and derided by classmates as Potato Girl, was brutally slain. Dell's killer was never found. While the victim has since achieved immortality in local legends and ghost stories, now as this new murder investigation draws Kate irresistibly in, her past and present collide in terrifying, unexpected ways, because nothing is quite what it seems, and the grim specters of her youth are far from forgotten. More than just a murder mystery, Jennifer McMahon's extraordinary debut novel, Promise Not to Tell, is a story of friendship, family, devotion, and betrayal. Tautly written, delightfully insightful, and beautifully evocative and utterly unforgettable. Can you imagine? I mean, when I got the book, I ordered the book because I definitely wanted to read it. I wanted to kind of get into Libby's head a little bit. I loved those kind of books when I was her age. I loved mysteries. I loved murder mysteries. And I read a lot of them. And so I really wanted to find out what she was reading. And what I thought was so crazy about this is that she's reading about a murder of a young girl. And I just thought that was just crazy. I still do. Just unbelievable that that's what she was reading. So you know, I don't know. I mean, I think that it very possibly could have been some sort of a threat, Alicia. Those are things that kind of come into my mind when I'm thinking about this kind of stuff. Yeah, there is something about the girl wearing a sweater. Well, Kelsey lent her. She didn't lend a Pep Jones. She didn't lend a sweater. She gave Abby a sweatshirt of hers, and Abby was wearing Kelsey's sweatshirt in the picture on the bridge. You know, it's just really, really, really strange. I know, Faye. It's just really, like I said, it's beyond eerie. It's just creepy. It's just creepy. Um, so yeah, 6 days. It supposedly happened on the 19th or the 20th of February. So it was just a week after the girls were murdered that this guy is, wearing a ski mask, looking through windows. I find that highly suspicious and not coincidental. That's just me. um, but we've got, like you said, we've been given a lot of information thanks to the Murder Sheet podcast. I had Anya and Kevin on, and I talked to them about their original information that they gave to us before this document. And when we got the full interview with Barbara McDonald, this definitely gives us a lot, and a lot more than what we had. I think what I'm most concerned about, and I have been pretty much since it all broke that they'd found it or that it was coming out, was, would this hurt the case? Would this information being leaked to the public hurt Abby and Libby's case in some way? And I'm still not sure that it hasn't. I don't believe that these documents will be able to be used in a court of law now. I think that the defense will fight tooth and nail to get them thrown out. Faye, I've thought about that. I've had a lot of people ask me that question, and a lot of emails of people asking me if I thought those were done purposely or if it was an accident. I think that there's a lot of movement in both directions to say either way, either or. If they're trying to wrestle the trees, so to speak, and shake the trees and have stuff fall out, this could be a great way to do it. Especially when they come right out and tell Kegan they don't believe he's bridge guy. That lets the real bridge guy know, hey, they ain't looking at him. They're trying to get information on me. That to me is a huge thing. Why would they do that? Like I said, to me, the only reason an investigator would tip their hand that way is if they're trying to get someone else's attention. And I agree with you, Tech Death. They're not going to make a big mistake like that 5 years later. These guys have, I'm not saying that they've been perfect, because I don't believe they have. And I do believe that they have made mistakes, but I also believe that they've known a lot more than we ever gave them credit for. They've been onto something from the very start. And they're trying to blow it up. And that this is where we are. And I still try to hold on to what Doug Carter told us in his very last interview just last month. He looked right at the camera. We know a lot about you. And sleep well. They're coming for him. I don't think they're going to give up. I don't think that they're going to not stop pounding the bricks and trying to get the tips and whatever it is that they still need, which in my opinion is to put him at the crime scene. Being on the bridge isn't enough. Being the man on the bridge, even saying down the hill, isn't enough. It is not enough to convict him of double homicide. There has to be something that puts him at the scene. So, and that's always bothered me on Royal when Tobe said that. I mean, being a sheriff, he's talked to probably hundreds of thousands of people over the years, but for him to say the voice stuck out to him and he knew the voice, who is that? That's always bothered me. Was it real, or, does he really happen to know? I hope somebody confesses tech death. I hope that they can put the pressure on. Tobe said perpetual pressure works, and they are putting the pressure on. And I think that they will get what they need eventually. I'm so confused on how the family. Hold on a second, because I think my internet's lagging a little bit tonight with certain stuff. So just bear with me here as I'm trying to get stuff up on the screen. It's not working very well with me trying to show my comments. I'm so confused. Where did it go? Hold on. Hi, Don. Thanks for joining. Well, thank you. I so appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, the transcripts, the same way everybody else did. Yep, the same way everybody else got them. I'm not privy to insider information. I don't have sources. I don't claim to have sources. The murder sheet is fantastic. All the stuff that they have done. My interview with them was great. I had a really good conversation with them, and I'm going to have them back on my show after the dust settles a little bit on this, because I think everybody's still kind of reeling from it a bit. Yeah, they do confess a lot. So let's be hopeful that that's kind of, sorry, just give me a second here. I just need to take a drink of my water. I've often thought, if this is something where this CSAM ring, I don't call it child pornography here. As everybody knows, it should never be called that. Pornography is an adult entertainment that is most often the people participating in it have given consent to do that. And we are very well aware that these children cannot give consent of any of it. And so therefore it is child sexual abuse material. And that is how it should be and always be referred. But if this CSAM ring that's going on, that's this huge thing in Indiana, and they did get wind of someone, of her or whatever, wanting to go to the police about Anthony shots, and they knew that would probably explode this and get law enforcement onto them, then it could explain why things happened the way they did that day and how fast it happened. The fact that it was such a quick thing, and he was in and out basically. He killed them and he left right away for the most part. We don't know for a fact that there was no sexual assault, but it doesn't appear that there was. And maybe they tried to make it look like there might have been or something. I don't know. But it was more of a let's eliminate a witness kind of thing. And if that's the case, it may very well be that, that's what happened. I think we're going to find out at some point, but, who knows what could really have happened. I do think that if she was there to meet someone, if Libby actually thought she was going to meet Anthony Schatz that day, and that man appeared on that bridge, she knew immediately that this is not him. This is not him. I'm in trouble. This is not the guy. Libby was extremely smart. She was a very smart girl. And I don't believe that, that she wouldn't have known something was up, which is why she felt the need to videotape it. And it just goes back to the horror that the two of them felt that day, being marched to that area and knowing what was probably eminently going to happen to them. Because God knows, they may have just told them flat out what was going to happen to them. We don't know. But it's just sad. It's so, so sad that these beautiful girls had to lose their lives in this way. And that this man is still walking free, whoever he is. I mean, that's, we know that law enforcement said it isn't Kegan. They told him that. So I have to go with that. I don't believe they'd tell him that if it wasn't the truth. I don't know. I just know it's a tangled web of a lot of information, and there's a lot of stuff to look at. And yes, it could be acquaintance of these people, because we don't know, like I said, who all the players are in this porn ring. And if it turns out that we've got some really high level players in this, that could mean a lot of lives being absolutely blown apart. And that in itself is reason for murder. I mean, if you're a part of this and you know that this stuff's been leaked or this whatever, and that police are on the tails of these two guys, these two idiots that, are talking to young girls, they're doing whatever, that could be why. I don't know. It's just mind-boggling. So, I think that Bridge Guy was dressed as any Midwestern male in his middle to late 40s would be, because that's what I get from that man. I've always felt that he was an older person. I always had a hard time seeing a young guy, but at the same time, we all see stuff differently. We all see everyone differently. So, and I know law enforcement has told us, that the reason they released that was for the people that actually know Bridge Guy. We've talked about it before. The video and the still picture that they took from the video, those were all put out for the people who actually know that man on the bridge. You're going to recognize him. If you're related to him, or you work with him or are friends with him, you are going to know that that's the guy on the bridge. If that's your brother or your uncle or whatever, you're going to be like, wow, that's him. And that's why they did that. But yeah, I don't know about, I think there was a reason why the phones were wiped as they were. I don't know what that will be. Hey, TTM fangirl. There is so much to absorb. Glad you're here. It's it's just really it's something to take in. I hope everyone will take the time to go out there on your own. Don't listen, don't make up your minds or your opinions by something that someone else says. Go out there and find the transcript and read it. Read the investigation transcript from law enforcement. Read the full interview with Barbara McDonald on the Klines, and make up your own minds, because that's where it boils down to, and that's where the critical thinking comes in. And and just make sure that you're trying to keep an open mind to all possibilities, because we don't know. We certainly do not know anything factual except what's been presented. So everything else is purely speculation. But if anybody out there has the unredacted transcript, I'm just going to throw this out there. Please, please, please do not, under any circumstances, talk about it, put it out, or anything, because the unredacted one is doxing all the victims in that document, all the people that have not been charged with a crime, their names, their addresses, all of that stuff is in that document. And please don't do that. It's so irresponsible for people just wanting to get views on their channels or subscribers to their social media. It is so wrong. And that, I will end it, I think, with that for tonight. As always, if anyone has any information regarding the Abby and Libby case or the Anthony Schatz profile, please contact law enforcement at the tip line. It's been scrolling along the bottom of my screen all night. And I want everybody to know that no tip is too silly of a tip. If you have something, thank you, Unroyal. Love to you. I love that you said that, and I will give you a high five for that. But yeah, you guys, just take it easy. Everybody be safe, and I will talk to you all really soon. And everyone have a good night, and thank you so very much for coming and supporting Behind the Crime Door. I appreciate each and every one of you. Good night, everyone.